let's start. So first of all, my name is Alberto Abella. I'm the data modeling expert at FIWARE Foundation. And today we are going to talk about this precision farming using FIWARE smart data models. But let me put just the small introduction. What are our session goals? First, to assume and to assess the economic relevance of the use of data in the sector, in the agri-food sector. Then to understand the need of standardization as the base for reducing the cost of technology adoption. Surprisingly, for a sector which is not evolving that much, now we are in a constant evolution due to the eruption of new technologies that increase our efficiency. And in order to tackle some of these challenges about technology adoption, we're going to explain the Smart Data Models Initiative and how it could help you in your projects, and understanding how to contribute and how to use these data models. Okay, these are the goals, and this is the index. So the first part will talk about the general approach in point 1 and point 2. Then we'll focus and make you understand what is the relevance of new ways of standardization. And the points 4, 5, and 6 will be around the Smart Data Models Initiative, explaining, and we'll see directly into the websites. We'll end with a roadmap and with a conclusion. And just going directly to the data technical challenges that we have into the agri-food sector. So the first reflection that I want to make you is that when we are talking about the digital challenges, we could be thinking that maybe we are just talking about data coming specifically from our sector, like farms, like pests, like animals, like crops, greenhouses, soil, and these kind of things. But it is also true that there are many other data sources which really affects our business, and they're coming from, let's say, different sectors like meteo information, environmental information, energy consumption, IoT sensoring, the use of robotics, the use of water management, the logistics, and so on. Therefore, when we are thinking on the data sources that we have to use, we cannot think that we are alone. So in fact, there has to be a holistic approach in order to make our business efficient, because by the end, this is the goal. The adoption of technology is just a way of making us more efficient and more sustainable on the long range. So, and the point is that when we have so big variety of data sources, maybe we can face some challenges, because in some of these data sources we are quite familiar, like the first one that you're seeing, but maybe we're not that much into the second. And there is another challenge, which is okay, who pays the evolution? Because maybe you can make a great effort and to be okay, I'm on the bleeding edge of technology right now, but what will happen tomorrow? We have to keep on being that. And the point is that adoption of technology is not really quite affordable, not only in terms of the economic resources that we have to put into place, but also the time that we need and the organizational resources that we have to use for adopting that technology. And of course, we have a growing number of sources of technological resources that can be implemented and could help us on our exploitation. And the point is that if we trust in one single data provider, technology provider, what will happen if this technology provider becomes obsolete or just outdone by some others? Okay, how can you trust? If you just got a main vendor, maybe this vendor could you lock into their products, and it is quite likely that you will have multi-providers, so you will have different sectors, and therefore You have this variety of technologies. You need some kind of common approach in order to guarantee that you will be competitive in the coming days, and that this integration will be adopted seamlessly, and that you will remain efficient. So that's the mess in which you are working currently. So let me explain right now what is the approach that from the FIWARE Foundation we do for this kind of situation. So we are approaching in the context, the digital twin data management. So what we are referring as a digital twin. For us, a digital twin is a digital representation of every asset, not only for the agri-food sector, because this approach is global, but it's something in which you define the different entities that belongs to your business. These entities could be physical ones, like a bulldozer, like your soil, like your animals, or could be just a business logic entity like the competitiveness or other things. So, and in these entities are characterized by attributes that can be properties in which you define a value or a set of values, or just the relationship between these entities, like a building belongs to a farm, a zone belongs to a building, a pen belongs to a zone, which is something which is already available. And what we need to have not only these entities, but we need immediate information about them. So what is called the context. And in order to share that information across the different systems, we need two types of interoperability. First, we need that the communications and the way of requesting that information is common, so a standard API. And not only this, but the contents of this request for information has to be common, which is the common smart data models. So if you have this approach to the digital twin, you can find out that you are like something like this. So you have a crop, you have drones, you have a tractor, you have different entities that defines your business, and in every entity we have several properties. These properties, of course, is just an example, and it's a much wider list for any of them, and there are many other entities, of course. Okay, and what you have is that this digital twin representation will inform you of what is going on into your exploitation, but on the other hand, it will allows you to act on your exploitation. And if you have the business models, then you can even create forecasts about what is going to happen if you do this or if you do that. And therefore, according to the results of this modeling, you can actuate on your exploitation. I have to increase the humidity of my soil. I have to provide more food to my animals. I have to take care of the temperature of an animal because maybe this animal is ill or is going to get pregnant or whatever. Okay. So and this approach of the digital twin can be used, let's say, in three main scenarios. The first scenario is let's say the local one. So you are creating the business logic for your business, and then you have to integrate multiple systems. And in this integration, you are using this approach of the digital twin just for the systems of yourself, which is okay. It's nice because it allows you to integrate different vendors into your very exploitation, but it is also true that it could happen that you have to share possibly information with other organizations, like the organization which is providing you with meta alerts, with another data sources about what is the market value, the prices for the food of the animals, or this kind of thing. Okay, all these you have to integrate. But it is also true that you could also have to integrate this across different organizations. So all the farms in that area have to integrate with the regional government for whatever reason. Okay, and this approach based on an open communications protocol, an open API, and common information data models allows you that do not care about what is going to put you on the market, because you will be able to integrate. And the important thing is that this approach of the digital twin is not a passive approach in which you just are censoring your exploitation, but the point is that in a coming future, you will be able to act and to define, okay, this integration could allow you just to automate what is going on. So if you detect that there is a dry in some part of the soil that you are exploiting, oh, I need to pour water here automatically without caring, okay? And that you have all the information about how much water and everything you are doing into exploitation proactively. So summarizing, what you are going to have is just a much more automated exploitation with the adoption of technology, but this technology will be you will be able to integrate because you are trusting on the open specification and open data models. So, and let me just point out one of the something which is rather new for you in terms of standardization. Currently, standardization is something which seems to be very classic, very static. And I think that this impression is right. So to now, I think that most of the standardization seems to be boring to me. I've been in that business for several times, and it's something like written on a stone, let's say that. Something which takes a lot of time, and sometimes they are arriving to the market late. Okay, here I'm emphasizing these two main levels of standardization, which are critical. It's not the only levels that you have to standardize, but they are the main ones. Okay, you have to standardize how you request and interchange information within the systems across your organization or other organizations, I have explained to you, but also what you are interchanging has to have a meaning for you. It is also true that if you have this, maybe in a coming future, you'll need to standardize as well the business logic, how you make business, how you set price, and these kind of things. But for today, if you achieve these two first points, I think that you can be very, very happy because you are going to be very, very efficient. So, and regarding this, I have to announce, and possibly most of you are familiar, that what we provide from the FIWARE Foundation is an open specification of an API. This API has been standardized by INGSI. INGSI is a standardization organization, standardization body, okay? We are evolving this standard on a daily basis. Let's say we have couple of meetings every week just regarding the evolution of the standard and to make it update with what is in the market. Okay, so in that sense, the communication standard, the API standard, is something which is open, and it will be open forever. Okay, and it's not done by the FIWARE Foundation at all, because in this INGSI there are many organizations, including integrators and other kind of organizations which are using the standard on a daily basis. So they really care about those kind of. Fortunately, this implementation, this standard, has been adopted by the European Commission into the CEF program as a building block. The building block is just a piece of software which allows to the creation of interoperable services at the European level. And because of that, it is being endorsed, and it's the recommended option when you have to retrieve context data. Context data are data which is coming from very different elements across your organization. Additionally, we have adopted the GSMI reference architecture for including many of these elements into the specification. Therefore, when you are using the NGSI LD approach, what you have is not only the integration for this, but also for these elements coming from the GSMI architecture. And all this is being done not along the FIWARE Foundation, but together with some other organizations like the TM Forum. And now let me just remark a very different thing between what is the classic standardization, okay, the classic standardization and what we are doing at the Smart Data Models Initiative. The classic standardization, or this standardization was done by the classic standardization bodies, is a very stable and fully dedicated entity, like DIN in Germany, INOR in Spain, ISO at worldwide level. Okay, this is nice, and what we are proposing is not an alternative, but something which complements it. It is true that the standardization groups, let's say for agri-food sector, there will be many standardization groups, okay? And these organizations try to have a well-balanced composition of the standardization groups, which is not always been possible, but they try to. Okay, there is a very well documented consensus mechanisms. They have global reviews, and the reviews are reviewed, and the revisions have to be approved, and so on. Okay, nice. So we have is a very good documentation. Okay, and the prestige of the standards comes from the source entity. If you are the DIN in Germany, you are the one creating the rules. Therefore, whatever you do, it has the prestige to be the supported entity of this country. You can do it in some other countries. Okay, good. And as a result, the advantage of this is that you have supposedly low bias standards, so not the standards providing benefits to one single type of organizations, like a vendor, and it used to be very coherent with formal standardization. Okay, and the reviews are predictable. So possibly every 4 years your standard is being reviewed. Okay, nice. And what's the drawbacks that you have here? The point is that you can create theoretical standards, a standard who nobody has used it, or maybe nobody is gonna to use it. Why is that? Because it's being created on the desk, not in the field. Possibly you are taking advantage of the experience of the people coming here, but you are creating something which is not really tested into the market. And of course, the main drawback is that the revision of these standards is extremely slow. 4 years in the technological market is an age. It's something which is simply not bearable. And when I mean, I'm not that expert at the standards in agri-food sector, but in some other sector which is much more dynamic, the smart cities, we have standards 7 years old, 8 years old, 5 years old. Oh my God, this is simply unbearable or merely useless, because in 4 years you have not changed anything. Okay, I don't want to mean that we have to a complete restructuring, but if you have 4 years in the very same standard, possibly you are not doing the right things. Okay, on the contrary to this standardization, de facto standardization is not always created by a fully dedicated organization. However, here in FIWARE Foundation, we are dedicating resources for doing these kind of things. Who is participating? The people who's participating are those people who are really interested in participating. Not these people that I don't know if you are familiar with the standardization bodies, but sometimes in the standardization bodies, there are organizations which are there just for stopping that the standard is being done, because they have sometimes a commercial interest of not creating a standard which competes with their private standard that they are creating as an organization. This is quite relevant in the technology market. Okay, the consensus is try to reach, but there is let's say a benevolent dictator. I don't know you are familiar with this concept, but the point is that by the end, somebody has to make a decision if there is not a consensus, because what we cannot afford is that the delay. So of course, there is not a hurry for creating a de facto standard, but it is true that if we are going to wait for years, we are into the very same problems that we have with the classic standardization. And therefore, this is not the right approach. Okay, and what are the main differences between de facto standardization? Because the standard is created together with the implementation, so it's not possible to create a standard without an implementation, because in fact, if we don't have an implementation, we do not know if we are really doing something which is useful. Okay, and the other point is that why do we have to wait for years for having a new version? Why can't not we just create standards? I don't want to mean in a weekly basis, but monthly. Why not? As long as you are compatible with previous editions, so we care about this, I guess that the standard should be reviewed as soon as you detect that there is a minor inconvenience. And with this de facto standardization approach, it's possible to do it, okay? It is true that there are some challenges for this kind of approach, which is how to support this, because the people here in the de facto standardization, we are not selling standards as the classic standardization bodies, okay? But this is something that for the moment we are able to tackle with it, okay? So the scenario is that you have increasing sources of data for your business, and you have a quick technological evolution. And the answer is, wouldn't it be good to have a support for evolving your data models to adapt to the coming technologies like blockchain? I mean blockchain because it's one of the examples that in the Agrifood sector is starting to have a very relevance. Blockchains can provide the traceability of the Agrifood products between the producer and to the consumer. And therefore, you need to integrate this. How are you going to adapt? Only by yourself? I think it's a challenge and it's a waste of resources. Or what if you have to be interoperable with other news initiatives? Or if you have to put the availability of your products into a data marketplace, how are you going to integrate this if you are not trusting on standard data models? Okay, imagine that for every product that you have, and to put into a marketplace, you need to create a specific integration with this marketplace. Who is going to pay this? And not only who is going to pay this, how long does it take for your organization to integrate into this kind of resources that in the coming future will be, or even in the present, it will be your daily business? And what will happen if you have to update or to new regulations, which are coming constantly? Okay, are you going to do it alone? So it would be good to have this and to have something with an open license that enables you to adapt or to extend to your needs, because it's also true that the standard not always copes with all the needs that you have. But if you have, let's say, the core, which allows you this integration, you can extend it. This is the right approach. And of course, if you want, for whatever reason, to use or to evolve or to share, that you can do it. And this is what we provide, and this is what I'm going to explain in the next slides. So what is the Smart Data Models Initiative? Okay, you can see the principles that I've basically explained previously. So it's a community site, so it's something in which everybody is able to participate, able to contribute. Okay, with detailed data models, we'll explain the three elements that we have into a data model. Is done by different organizations or relevant organizations in the sector. So we have quite a centralized approach, because the people driving the initiative is not expert at all. So FIWARE Foundation, TM Forum, and in the coming month, other organizations, which are the management, are not specialists into anything. So the organization in the agri-food sector, into the robotics, into the smart cities, into the aeronautics, there are organizations which are experts. So they have to be the ones contributing in these fields. So, but this is also true that it's required to provide coherence and consistency. So let me put an example. If we are defining a temperature, and the temperature is a figure, a temperature will be a figure for any data model that we have in this initiative. So imagine that you are connecting the temperature into your weather forecast, and the temperature is just a text saying that it's warm. And you have another temperature in another place, which is 23 degrees centigrade. You need to integrate this, is simply impossible. So what we care is that every defined property has the same type of data across different data models. And like I've explained to you at the very beginning, you are not going to use just the information coming from your sector, but from many other sectors like meteo, logistics, robotics, and so on. So what we provide also is a method for creating agile standardization. Basically, what we are adopting is just the same approach of the creation of programming code, just a repository based on Git, which is a tool for taking care of the different versions. And with this, we are able to maintain, let's say, an infinite amount of versions. This is not the goal to have infinite versions, but we could do it. We could manage it. And to provide extended usefulness to FIWARE platform users. So all the data models that you're going to have into a Smart Data Models initiative are compatible with FIWARE platform, absolutely. But they are also compatible with some other things because we provide some exports, and in the coming future, we're going to extend this, that you can use it independently if you're using the FIWARE platform or not, okay? Something that I have to remark is that we are using open licensing, which allows you free use for whatever use you want for anybody. You can modify and you can share the modification. So it's free at all costs. The only requirement is to remain the attribution, and all the data models are used in real cases scenarios and based on real cases. And whenever there is an existing regulation, we are not reinventing the wheel. So if there is an adopted and open regulation, then we just transform this regulation into smart data models. We are not going to invent anything, okay? So with this, we have two websites. We're going to browse a bit, but before browsing, I want to explain some of the elements. The first on the left is just for more technical people. It's just the very data models there. And on the right is more for users, and we have, let's say, news on the updates. You can check about data models, but it's not so technical as the left one. So what is a data model made of? 3 elements. First of all, a specification. So defining all the properties, all the fields that defines the identity. So if we are talking about an animal, we can have the sex, the weight, the birthplace, the species, and all this kind of stuff. Okay. Currently, this specification is only available in English, but soon, and when I mean soon, possibly next week or the other, we'll have several languages thanks to automatic translation of this specification. And this specification will be created automatically. So it will be automatically updated whenever there is a new version, okay? We are doing into Markdown. Markdown is a type format just for making just quite readable for anybody. And I've commented the several languages. Another element that is a part of the data model is a JSON schema. JSON schema is a technical resource for validation of a payload of examples of this data model. In order to know if this payload of an entity is according to the data model, you have this resource, and it's located at the root named schema.json, so you can see it, and it includes the description of every property. In fact, this is going to be, like my colleague Jason says, is the source of truth. So you have to define that. And the third element are the examples, because this is not something which is theoretical, and there are examples in the two versions of the NGSI standard. There is a version, I don't know if you're familiar with, a version which is NGSI v2, and there is another standard, which is the new one, connected with linked data, NGSI LD. For these two versions, there are two formats, one which is key values, which is a simplified format, and a normalized, which is, let's say, the usual one. And in every data model, you have these three elements: specification, a JSON schema, and these four examples. Let me go for just a real case. Let me go. I'm just sharing. Let me go here. Okay. Now you are going to start seeing something which is different. If we are here, okay, we have the agri greenhouse, which is just a data model, and we can see these elements. Okay. First of all is the specification. As you can see, you have the description of the attribute, the type, written description of this property is mandatory, optional, and so on. Blah, 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 blah. And here you have included into the specification the samples, but in every data model, you have a directory. I'm going to the main branch, which are examples. And in these examples, you have the usual JSON example. This is a key values. You see the very same properties, ID, type, they created the related source, she also belongs to, and so on. Okay, this is an example. But you have also, if you notice, an export into a CSV. This export is, the purpose of this export is for making you, for those who are not users of FIWARE platform, just to provide examples as well of the different payloads. You can see there, which is the way that these are the different properties that we have in the same payload, or we can show it in raw format, which is not that good for, let's say, for reading, but is much better for the computers. Okay, so these are the three elements of composing a data model. So we have seen the specification. Okay, and these attributes are unique as far as possible. This is a concept. So because sometimes the regulations define, which is something, let's say, weird, but sometimes the regulation define the same thing in two different ways, and we cannot fight against it. Okay, this is the data model schema, and these are the data model examples. What is the structure of these repositories? And we are going to go back to the repository. What you have seen is this lower part about the data models. Okay, every folder in this group is a subject. So the subject is a group of data models with these three elements: the examples, the specification, and the schema. Okay, but this subject could belong to a domain. Smart Agrifood is one domain, but it's also true that the Smart Agrifood is taking advantage of some other groups of data models, like weather. Weather is relevant, of course, is relevant for agri-food sector, definitely, but it's also very relevant for smart cities management, is relevant for environmental issues, is relevant for many things. So weather is one of the most popular subjects, okay? So therefore, these groups of data models could belong to several. And because of belonging to several, this connection is automatically updated. So if we update, for whatever reason, anything on the weather, it will be automatically being available for Smart Agri-Food sector. Okay. And what you have here into the domains repositories, we have, let's say, general documentation or general standardization specific of this data, of this domain. And in the main repository, we call it the umbrella repository. We have the guidelines for the definition of the data models, the context, and the inventory on domains of properties, so many technical elements, okay? This is the structure. I'm going to do it just directly into the site. Let me go. Here we are. Let me go back. So this is the main site. Into the main site, you see that Smart Agrifood is one of the pin repositories. And inside, we have a subject for Agrifood, another for aquaculture, another for weather. And this could be increased as much as we need. Okay, if there is the need of split the Agrifood into several domains, into several subjects, it can be done because this is quite decentralized. And for every of these subjects can be a different organization managing it. Okay, and we get into Agrifood, we have all these data models, and you see some of them with the name incubated. We'll explain this, but these are data models which are coming. So it's been defined, and in the coming future, there will be official data models, okay? So you have seen the structure, and now we are going to see the other part, which is the website for the smart data models. Is this domain, smartdatamodels.org, okay? And here, the first thing you have is just a database for searching for any property across the different data models. I can look for humidity, okay? I'm just clicking. Okay, and these are the results. So we have terms related with humidity in this data model, in aggregate greenhouse, in agricultural record, in the weather forecast, in the weather reserve. All of these have elements which are related with humidity. And then we could get into this one, agriparcel, I don't know. This is the data model. And somewhere across this data model, we have humidity, and we can check it out if this related. I'm seeing here, which is leaf relative humidity, okay? And this could be useful for us, okay? Let me go back. What else do you have? You can search into the descriptions. Let me click in this upper part, and you can check for any element across the description, not the name of the property. Or maybe you can, in this interface, which is more complete, you can look specifically for a property or just into a description. If we are looking for building, I know for building there are, yep. Okay, we have into AgriFarm, but also there are different elements for building. This is quite lengthy, specification, and these are related building. This is for device also, point of interest. Okay, so there are many elements, and all the data models in this initiative are searchable through this interface. But it is also true that you don't have to pay that much attention to this site because you have many things to do in your business, and therefore, what you can do is to go for this subscribe section, and if you're interested, let's say, only in Agrifood, you can click here, put your email, and then once a week, we send what is new regarding the data models. But if you want to know, you can go for the news section and to say, oh, what's been updated? Oh, the off-street parking data model, the context, which is something which applies to every data model into the initiative. These are for water management. This is for risk assessment, and so on and so on. So well, you can see there are news, not every day, but regularly every week there is something that can be relevant to you. Okay, and I was explaining to you, and let's go for the next things because we are running. And I've explained to you the example looking for an attribute. Okay, you can create. I've explained to you the CSV examples. Okay. And another thing that it could be interesting, and is coming in the future, currently it's only a proof of concept. If you imagine that you are defining a new application for something, what we are going to have is just a source of dynamic examples for you. Because, of course, we have 4 examples static into every data model, but maybe this is not enough. If we just click on this link, let me go, okay? What we have is just an example. Oh, let me put into a different browser, which is more fancy. Well, if you update, maybe you didn't notice, but it's different. Let's say, yeah, this is the weather observed. Just for let you know, it's changing constantly all the values, okay? Why is that? Because if you want to create an application and you need examples, you can check this against this resource and check in your application constantly. Okay, this is not available for all the data models, but it will be soon for most of the data models that we have into the repository. Okay, let me go. Yeah, here we are. Okay, and what is the governance? So all these are the services that I've explained to you. There is a technical steering board in which currently there are 2 organizations and another who is going to join, which are FIWARE Foundation and TM Forum. There are people who manage domains, and there are people who manage different subjects, okay? This is the way of participation. You can be a steering board member, you can be an incumbent stakeholder that can manage a domain or a subject, okay? Or you can be just a single contributor or single user, that you are not doing anything but just raising issues when you are using the data models. We're going to get into this. So in order to participate, if you want to become a contributor, what do you need? Not that much. A GitHub account that, as you know, is free, and to sign the contribution agreement, which is just a form. Why do you have to sign this contribution agreement, which is, let me put it into the screen, which is just this form? Because remember that we are going to provide you with the data models which are free and with an open license. In order to do it so, we need that the authors authorize that you are going to use this way the data models. And therefore, whenever you are an author, you have to sign this contribution saying, oh, I agree on releasing this knowledge with an open license, which allows others to use it, to modify and to share it. It is that much, okay? What else do you need? Yeah, well, sorry. Let me go back to the presentation if I clever enough. It's here. Yeah, here we are. Okay. You have also a guideline, so some recommendations on how to define the properties, how to make it compatible with other things, and there is even a contribution manual. This contribution manual is available here. We can browse, but it's going to change dramatically because we are automating everything. Till now, you have to provide these 3 elements, which are the examples, the schema, the specification. And of course, if you want to be attributed, you can put your name into the contributors.yaml file. But in the coming future, and when I say coming future is possibly in 2 weeks, you only have to provide just the examples and the schema, because the specification will be generated automatically based on the description of the schema, not only simplifying the contribution, but also to make it possible to have the multi-language specification generated automatically and to update automatically whenever there is a new version of a data model. And of course, there are many other documents which are generated automatically, which are the README for the different subjects or repositories, or the interactive Swagger.yaml or the CSV exports that I've showed to you. Okay. How can you contribute to this? I don't know if you are familiar with it, but you can do a pull request. Okay. which is just a contribution into a GitHub repository, or just through a submitted form if you are not that experts. And if your pull request is accepted, you can be listed into the contributor file. Let me go here and to see one example. And this is an example in which several people, these 4 people, have contributed. And if you want to appear here, it's something which is voluntary to you. So, and if you want, you can include your project or not, or whatever. Okay. And this file of the contributors is always available for any data model across all the subjects into the initiative. Okay. And of course, if you want to become an administrator or part of the steering board, okay, we have to sign an agreement, which is basically that you are going to dedicate some time or some resources for the caring of this subject, this domain, or whatever. Okay. And sorry. This is the preferred license for the data models, which is Creative Commons. Or if you wish, you can use some other licenses as long as you have 3 conditions: to recognize the contributions, allow the free reuse of the data models, and do not impose other restrictions for the use and adoption. And this is the life cycle of the data models. So how are they evolving? So there are 3 levels. First, the incubated, in which everybody is able to participate. Okay, we do not care about what is happening there, and once you define that it's finished, then you can get into contact with the organization and say, oh, I have something here. There are some other data models which are, let's say, approved, because most of the cases are coming from a regulation that is being translated into data models, and therefore it's going to be adopted, but they are missing, let's say, the examples or the documentation, or the format is not the official one, and the official ones that you have seen. From time to time, some of the data models could become obsolete, but what we've done is just reviewing and create new versions. Okay, and this is the procedure for creating a new data model. So you can submit a data model, okay, and the first question that we are going to make is that, are you using this data model in some place? If you are not, unless you are in an emerging domain in which there is no experience, possibly our answer will be, okay, if nobody is using, why do you think that just something that you have designed in your desk is going to be adopted? Okay, this is not our business. It's not a matter of rejection, it's a matter of resources. We cannot deal with everything that we have. In fact, we are fortunately a bit overwhelmed by the contributions. Whenever there is an actual use, what we first check is that, is there any open regulation for this matter? And we find out, we align this data model with this regulation, because we, as I've stated to you, we are not reinventing the wheel. Okay, and we created that version which is submitted to the community for any change, and this is a cycle that can happen many things till the point that is basically stable, and then the data model is published. Okay, and this is the structure of the documentation that I don't want to get into it, but remember that in the coming weeks we are going to have multi-language specification. Okay, and this is the roadmap. What is going to happen? So first of all, the steering committee will be extended in the next 3 weeks with a new entity. I'm not allowed to disclose it. You will notice. And we are into the dissemination. This is the Smart Agrifood. Tomorrow we have another. We have an tourism on the 25th. On the 3rd of December, we are going to present into International Data Spaces Association, and many other things. Okay. As a conclusion, so we are in a challenge, which is the increasing complexity of our technical evolution on the data management. Open de facto standardization could make much more easy the adoption of the standards, and the Smart Data Models Initiative provides you with an open license, free to use, free forever, collaborative data models compatible with FIWARE architecture without any vendor locking. we have a decentralized approach, so anybody, any expert could collaborate, and we have an open governance and an open contributions. And hopefully, this will be the contents of the presentation, and I'm going just to tackle some of the Q&A.